Trip number 2, hauling water today. I'll show you, I'm racing right now to beat that storm. That's what's on the way here. I think we're gonna get some more monsoons today. So I decided today's a good day. I'm gonna haul water. I'm gonna get my tanks all filled up. And then I might spend the rest of the afternoon running the chainsaw. I'm not sure. It's definitely warm. It's a warm one today. We got some good wind, so. Sorry about the wind, everybody. So I started cutting some juniper yesterday, getting started on cutting some firewood. Basically, I'm going to be selling some firewood this season, so I'm getting a head start on it now. And this is what I cut with that little saw. I had quite a few problems with it. Well, I can see a couple of these pieces I cut are a little on the long side, but that's okay. Maybe trim them down a little. I wasn't using a tape measure yesterday, which I should have, but I had a few problems with the saw. Man, it just really I had a hard time keeping the chain from coming loose. Didn't really matter how tight I tightened it, and it wasn't chain stretch. I'd already used these chains before, so I had a few problems with it. Once it was hot, it was very hard to start a couple of times. It seems like it went through gas a lot faster than what I remember, but this is the longest I've actually cut with it. I basically cut for 2.5 hours, and I was able to cut down 2 trees that honestly I've been waiting to cut down for a while. So this is all the wood from it. This pile is the stuff that's got to be split, and once I split that up, it's going to grow to about 3 times that size. Not too bad for, you know, about 2.5 hours of work. Take me about an hour of splitting, and then it's ready to sell. So coming up, I'm going to be planting a bunch of trees along the back side of the shipping container here, and these 2 junipers here and this barberry have got to go. They use a lot of moisture in the soil, and this is right where I'm going to plant like 30 or 40 elm trees for shade, and I can't have these things there. So this is more of the juniper that I'm going to cut up and sell, all this. So this is an island in my giant driveway, and this thing just sucks up all the moisture right in the middle. So I'm going to cut this down, and I'm going to plant, once again, I'm going to plant probably like 30 or 40 of those elm trees right here, and there's going to be a little mini forest, and those elm trees grow really fast. So I can't wait. I'm really excited. Yeah, I don't really feel bad about cutting down one invasive species tree that hogs a lot of water and planting 30 or 40 trees that are going to provide shade and are going to provide leaf foliage every year, that are actually like a normal tree, not an evergreen like the juniper. I mean, the juniper really doesn't, it's green all year, but it really doesn't put very much oxygen in the air. It doesn't really put very much into the environment here as far as dropping things to, you know, add mulch and stuff like that. Trees that drop leaves are going to be really valuable out here, especially when it comes to building soil. To build soil, you need to grow plants that have leaves that break down quickly every year, not all these evergreens. So that's what I'm going to do. There's also 2 trees over by the gun range that are in the path of doing some shooting this winter. So I took down 2 trees yesterday that are over by the racetrack where the small pond is. And once again, I want to plant a bunch of those elm trees for shade around the pond. And there's just no room for a couple of giant old junipers, especially both of them each had pack rat nests in them. And I didn't record cutting it down, but in the middle of cutting the tree down, a pack rat literally swan dived out of the top of this juniper tree, landed on the ground, and then he just sat there looking at me, and then he dove into a hole and hid. I didn't have I was in the middle of chainsawing. There's not much I could do. So, but yeah. So anyway, that tree also had to come out. So, and I've been looking at all of the already dead and down pieces of juniper around my property. You know, I have quite a few cords of wood already here ready to sell before I even get permits and work on going out to get more. So, but you know, that's a great way to keep me busy. It's a great way to make a bunch of money for this winter. You know, I don't have to run out and get a full-time job anywhere, so that's what I'm gonna do. I've got plenty of space to stack firewood and split firewood. So I finally got my new saw. So I chose a little bit different model. I chose the 450 Rancher instead of the 460. And the only difference is that they're very, very similar saws. It's just this one has the 50cc motor in it and the other one has the 60cc motor. And I kid you not, the weight difference is crazy. The other saw is 2.5 pounds heavier. And you know, this one is a little bit smaller, but this thing makes the exact same horsepower as my McCullough saw did that I had back in the early 90s. This thing is a 50cc saw. It makes 3.2 horsepower. And I'll tell you what, this little thing is an animal. I bought it, and I, believe it or not, I did all this cutting in one day. I did a whole bunch of cutting with this thing. And I'll tell you what, this saw is awesome. It just goes. It just works. It's really, really well balanced. I think it weighs, just the power unit alone empty, I think it weighs just a smidge over 11 pounds. And it sounds crazy, but my old saw here actually weighs the same. That little 16-inch saw weighs the same as this big saw with twice the horsepower and a bigger bar. It's incredible. Also, I did some research on the old Craftsman saw here. So this Craftsman saw, I found out, was actually built for Sears by Husqvarna. So this is a Husqvarna everything. Everything on it was built by Husqvarna. So this, even though it's an early 90s saw, this is actually a Husqvarna saw. Probably why it's in such good condition still. So I did some more tune-up work on this thing. I figured out that there was a little bit of a problem with the fuel lines, so I worked on that. I tried to fix, there's a leak in the fuel cap, but it's in the somewhere in the ventilation to it, so I got to figure that out still. I figured out why it was cutting strange. The other bar was completely fried. I had to get a new bar, so I've got a brand new Oregon bar. I got a brand new chain. I got a second new chain, S56, to go with it. And so here's the big thing I did to make this saw run so good now. It's ridiculous. I took the muffler off and I did the muffler modification to it. So what you do is you split the muffler apart, and inside there's a baffle, and in that little baffle had 12 little tiny holes in it. So I drilled all those 12 of those holes out to twice the size. And then where the exhaust exits the muffler, I increased that size by about 1/3. So the minute I fired this thing up after I did all that, I actually had to turn the low and the high jet about a 1/4 screw more rich or fat, because it wants to use more fuel now, because it makes more power now. That muffler modification, from the research I've done, gives it about a straight 20% power increase. Sometimes it can be as much as 25%. And I'll tell you what, I fired this thing up. I haven't cut any wood with it yet, but it screams. It absolutely screams. I've never heard it rev like that. I mean, and it sounds great. It sounds like it's got a pipe on it. And you know, that comes from dirt bikes, talking about having a pipe. But anyway, this little 50cc here, this thing sounds like a dirt bike. It sounds like it's got a pipe on it. It sounds fantastic. It starts really easy. And honestly, it's got this crazy vibration dampening. I mean, look at when I jiggle this thing. See how much jiggling? It's got a whole bunch of vibration dampening. So this thing's always, the engine's always moving around, but not on my hands. So I chose a little bit less power, and I won't be able to run a 24-inch bar, but saving 2.5 pounds when I'm out cutting wood is going to make a huge difference. And I haven't really said this on the channel yet, but what I'm doing for work this winter is I'm cutting and selling firewood, and I hope I can do it, but I set a lofty goal of 30 cords. I'd like to cut and sell 30 cords of wood. I can't believe this little saw is a Husqvarna saw, and it makes sense why it's in such good shape, or it makes sense why it, you know, some of the stuff seems to have lasted. You know, I've been knocking this thing for years, and it turns out it's actually a good saw. When I had the muffler off, I had a chance to look inside the cylinder. I had a chance to look at the cylinder walls, the walls of the piston, and I had a chance to look at the top of the piston. Everything is crystal clean. There is no scoring anywhere. The piston and the cylinder couldn't look better. So, and then I also took off the carburetor and I looked at it from that side, same thing. Honestly, it looks brand new. So this is great, because when you're out cutting firewood like this, and you know, my goal is to cut 30 cords. When I'm out cutting for the day, I don't have time to run 45 minutes back here to mess with the chainsaw or something. So I'm primarily going to cut with this. If I have any problems whatsoever, I have a backup saw now, and I'll go right to my backup saw. So it's funny, this whole time I thought this saw was done, and it turns out it's actually got some new life. So you know, Lord willing, you know, the Lord's blessed me with 2 saws now. I have a backup saw. That's exactly what you need if you're going to be out cutting wood and everything. So next thing I need to get are some chaps, and I probably need to get one of the gaiters for your arms. So, but anyway, yeah, I'm really excited. Got a lot of work ahead of me, but it's good, honest work, and I can make some good, honest money at it. So, yeah, look at that beauty. Look at this thing. It's just amazing to me how light this thing is. I mean, look at the size of the two. There's not much difference. There really isn't. It's kind of amazing. Yeah, look at that. So I also bought the case for it, and because I believe in keeping my saw in a case, and I'm only going to run the Husqvarna bar and chain oil, and I'm also going to only run their 2-stroke oil through it, at least until the warranty's up. Also, I spent a little bit more money and found a gas station that has ethanol-free fuel. So I'm going to mix ethanol-free fuel in the new saw, and basically I'll start doing it in the other saw as well. So I got 2 different mixes. This one's at 40 and this one's at 50 to 1. Okay, so if anybody's wondering, no, I am not sponsored by either one of these saws. I wish I was. So I got this at Tractor Supply. It was on sale. It was, I think it was $3.59. By the time out the door with, you know, new gas cans, the oil, you know, chain sharpener, the case, all the goodies and the, you know, the accoutrements to go with it, it ended up a little over $500. So it's an investment, that's for sure. I think when I bought this back, you know, 25 years ago, I think I paid I got it for $179 on sale. So, but now that I know what it has, and now I know how good a condition that the engine is in, if I ever have any problems with the carburetor, I can get a rebuild kit for it for like $20. I can do fuel lines for $5. I mean, I'm gonna you know, keep this thing going. So, and like I said, between the 2 saws, I should be able to always get my quota cut out in the wilderness before I come back. So, all right, I'm out cutting some more firewood. I'm cutting the last of the stuff here on the property, and I got this big pinion here to cut down, or cut up, I should say. Got this big pinion here I got to cut up. So I'm gonna use the new 450 Rancher. I've just about got it broke in. I think I got about 8.5 hours on it now, so I got to do 10 hours. So, but I'll show you guys how fast this thing cuts. I haven't started it today. It's got a new chain on it. I did 3 cuts with this chain. So yeah, let's check it out. I'll show you what this thing can do. All right, so this saw is cold. I haven't started it today yet. but I made this instead. Give me my 16 inch. Alright, here we go. That's about a 12 inch piece. Guys, this is some hard stuff. I love a new chain. Look at those wood chips. That's perfect. Yeah, look at this. This thing's just a wood chip factory. So that's basically how this thing cuts. So now I'm gonna take the camera out of the way and get to it. So this is my setup when I go out to cut wood in the forest. I'm going to take this trailer so I can come back with a nice pile of wood, and I can use Cardi B to help me transport the wood from the cutting site to the trailer. And then I went ahead and mounted my extra vise on here so that when it's time to sharpen the chainsaw, I'll just put it in the vise and do it the right way right there in the field. And then I can just take the vise off when I'm done this season and take it back inside. And if you're wondering, yes, it rained last night and I'm not really worried. What I did is I just coated that vise in WD-40 before it started raining, and I can see it work beautifully. You can see the WD-40 all over it. WD-40 displaces moisture, so, and I don't care if it gets on the paint of the trailer. This is a work trailer. It's not a beauty show. Okay, so an update to this little 36cc Craftsman saw. This thing has no bucking spike here. There's no spike to grab onto lumber when you're cutting. And I've never really liked that. So I decided to make my own bucking spike. So what I did is I drew up a little thing here, and then I made it in reality. Fits on the saw just like that. I found some nuts for it, or some bolts for it. Now, it already had 2 spots to bolt one on. This saw does not come with one, and they do not make one for it. But I just made one for it. and I think it's going to work great. So what I did, if you're wondering, I made it out of this galvanized piece of metal strapping for construction. I'm not sure exactly what the thickness is. It's pretty thin, but it also doesn't bend real easy. So, I mean, of course, a larger piece looks like it bends, but when you get it down to a small piece like this, there's no flex at all. But look at that. Made my own spike. Free. All right, so here we go. I found it was easier to put these screws in ahead of time. So I'm going to do that again. Put both the screws in, put them into the I'll show you what I'm doing here. Now, flathead screws would not have been ideal, but this is all I had. Honestly, I would go for some Allen screws, but I'd have to go to the hardware store for that. Sometimes you just go with what you already have, and I already had this stuff, so. But look at that. It fits on there nice and tight. The screws I used are short, so they're not going to puncture through the frame somewhere else. Look at that. That is on there good. That spike's not going anywhere. And these two screws are totally out of the way. So, yeah, let me throw the chain back on here. And now I believe in flipping the bar over every time you take the chain off. So I've already done that. That's what the pro loggers do. Been trying to do my research. This chain is sharp. All right, there we go. Let's tighten up this chain. There we go. Here it is. Ready to go. All right, nice and tight. All right, look at that. Look at that spike. Look at that beautiful thing. Look at that. I like the ones that sticks down a little bit below the saw. Now, I could have made it come up a little higher. You know, like I said, this is my first one. I could also turn it around. Maybe I'll do that. This screw's a little tighter going in this way, but that's okay. Still goes on. Tightens down all the way. Good. All right, now that definitely put it up a little bit higher. All right, let's take a look. Boy, that thing just looks aggressive. Look at that. Look at that spike. That is just aggressive. I love it. Yeah, I can already see that brought it up quite a bit. That is perfect. What do you know? Looks like I made it that way on purpose. Beautiful. Wow, look at that. Let's see. Look at that angle. That looks better. Wow, that just took this little tiny saw and it just makes it look like so much more. Now, if I painted it black, you would be able to see it better. But look at that, how when it's bolted on, I mean, it lines up just perfectly with the chain. Wow, that is just beautiful. Now, why didn't they make this with the saw? I'll never know. But I'll take it down. That is a well-needed item. Okay. Okay, see on the Husky saw, you can see it's right there. It's black. Now, they make theirs a little bit shorter, obviously. You know, if I had it to redo over again, I'd probably make it a little shorter. But you know what? I've seen lots of other saws that have their spikes to stick out pretty far. I mean, yes, I've lost 1 inch of my cutting bar, but honestly, you know, I don't need the entire 16-inch bar on that saw. Maybe I'll change it again later, but at least I have a bucking spike for now. Here we go. So I decided to paint it black, make it look a little bit more factory, just so you can see just how devilishly sharp those things are. Look at that. Look at that. Well, like I said, this little saw is an animal now, so now it's got something to help control it. All right, there it is. Look at that. New spike installed and painted. Look at that. Look at that beautiful thing. Yeah, that's going to be very effective. It's going to help a lot with controlling this saw. Nice. I'm glad I painted it. It does look better. I painted the screws black too, just for the heck of it. Figured why not. Look at that, everybody. A rainbow from end to end. Well, I got all my cutting done today. Got everything cleaned up. Took a shower and then lit my cigar, and now it's a torrential downpour. This is why I got my work done earlier. So I see water starting to slowly accumulate. If this keeps going, we'll start to fill the ponds here soon. Looks like it's some heavier stuff's actually coming this way, so that's good. I'll show you. I don't want to go out there. Got the new saw in the vise, getting ready to sharpen it. This is a new chain. So today I cut probably 2/3 of a cord of wood on this new chain. Touched the soft dirt one time. It's kind of unavoidable sometimes with the juniper. It's already got a lot of dirt in it, but yeah, I'll give this a good sharpening. Looks like none of the teeth are damaged or anything, so it looks good. You can see this chain's got a real nice curve there on the gullet. I don't know if I can get in close enough where you can see that, but anyway. So I'm going to give this a good sharpen. Unfortunately, my original chain, I'll show you. That wasn't cool. Okay. So this original chain, it came off. I had a branch that I was cutting. You know, when you're cutting juniper, you have to climb underneath stuff sometimes, you know, especially if you're only trying to cut off the dead stuff and leave a live tree, which is what I was doing. And I basically just misjudged how this branch was going to fall, and it bounced off of something and came back where it was going to hit me, and so I turned, and I'll show you what happened is, so I turned, and as the branch came down, it like hit at this angle, and it just popped the chain right off. And when the chain popped off, you know, I had already let off the throttle, but it was still running at a decent RPM, so it did some damage to the chain. You can see right here, I don't know if you can see on that, these two teeth, or these two drive teeth, actually three, they're screwed up pretty bad, and one of them, yeah, see, they're chewed up. They don't even want to go back into the, bar. And then there was one tooth that, or one drive link that would not articulate anymore. It won't, you know, move. It won't turn all the way. So this chain is for sure done. It's too bad too, because I had given this one a good sharpening, and it took to it really well. This thing was cutting like a beast. It's making some beautiful shavings. Look at that. Look at the sharpening I had on that. But, oh well, it's garbage now. I'm just going to keep it. Sometimes you can use chains like this to experiment with different types of sharpening methods and stuff. So anyway, I'll keep it for practice. Also, I saw a trick on YouTube So I re-gauged this bar a little bit. It still needs to be ground. I should take it to the chainsaw shop and have them grind it. But I got the gauge back on it pretty good. And what you do is you put a piece of metal in there that's the size that you want, and then put it over here on the vise, on the flat, and then you pound it with a rubber mallet with that piece of metal in there, and it bends it right back to that proper gauge. And you just keep pounding until that piece of metal fits in there nice and tight all the way along the bar. And basically the piece of metal I used is the exact size of the gauge that it is, which is 50 thousandths. So it worked pretty good. I'm going to use this as a backup bar, of course. It's not going to be a primary bar. This is the original Craftsman bar, so I think I can get it to work again. Also, I finally got a rubber mat for my bench and put it down. What a difference. For those of you who have never put a rubber mat down on your bench yet, go get one. It makes all the difference. It soaks up oil, it keeps things from moving around, it makes little tiny parts easier to find, it's easier to clean up spills and messes and stuff. And since I'm going to be constantly working on the chainsaws all the way until winter, I need a bench that can deal with oily stuff. So, and basically what I do every day when I put the chainsaw to bed, I bring both the chainsaws in and I fire up the air compressor, and I just basically blow all the parts out, including all the gooey, nasty, oily stuff from the chain oil and bar oil. I just blast all that outside onto the ground. You know, it all blends in. Blast all the dust off everything, blast off the air cleaner real good. I also blast out all of the air fins to cool the engine and make sure that the air cover is all blown out on the inside. And then I just give it just a quick wipe down with just a microfiber towel. And then I'll sharpen the chain and then put it back. Put it back, ready to use again. And since my plan is to cut every other day, or never cut 2 days in a row, I'm always going to be cutting, so I don't think I'm going to go through the process of draining out the gasoline if I'm going to use it again in a couple of days. I just don't really see the need to do that, especially since I have ethanol-free gas in there. So, and I've just about got it broke in. I got probably about 9 hours on it now, and broke in is 10. So, and I've been pulling the spark plug. It's been perfectly clean. It's, I mean, cardboard box brown, exactly what you want to see. So, yeah, I really, honestly, I can't say enough about this saw. Just right out of the box, it works. Too bad I busted a chain, but I'll get another one. It's part of it. You always have to have an extra chain. I probably should have like 4, I'll work my way up to it. I think I'm also going to find out from professional loggers what they use. They probably use a skip chain for cutting the juniper around here. I think there's just too many teeth on here. That's why it goes dull so quick. This isn't really the kind of chain you want to use for cutting through really hard wood, which is what this is. So, wow, it's raining good out there. It's been going on now for, I don't know, maybe 20 minutes. It's been a long time since I've had a bench set up like this. I had a bench in Oregon, but unfortunately it just turned into a place where crap got stacked up and it was completely unusable for years. And I vow this time I'm not going to let that happen. And this time, I didn't, yes, I could do a better job. I could put up pegboard. I could put up, a bunch of new stuff so that I could have all my tools laid out properly. But, I just used what I had. And, I think it worked good. I'm actually really pleased with how this turned out. And the functionality, the height is perfect. I made it a little bit taller than other benches I've had. And yeah, it's perfect. What do you know? I guess I'm sold on Husqvarna now. I definitely will buy another. And I am seriously thinking about putting a 16-inch bar on this thing. This motor with a 16-inch bar, this saw would just scream. I mean, it would probably cut faster through a lot of the stuff I'm cutting, oddly enough. And this is the cord of wood that I'm going to take a picture of. It actually over measures a little bit. It's closer to 5 feet wide, and it's closer to 9 feet long. It's a big cord. Look at all this firewood I have to process. It's all wet from raining last night. Got a bunch of rain last night. I'd say we probably got an inch. But anyway, look at all this wood I got to process. So when I unload out of the trailer, I make 2 piles. This is the one that needs to be split, and then these are the ones that do not need to be split. This pile that I got that needs to be split, it's pretty big. There's a lot of really big pieces in there. I got my work cut out for me. I'm going to split this all by hand until I can afford a log splitter. I'm going to make my little firewood business pay for its own stuff. The only thing I bought ahead of time was the saw. Well, there it is. There's my helper. Isn't that right, Scout? You Papa's helper? Would something find its way into the middle of that pile already? She seems to think so. It's heavy too.